Hi, my name is Rachel Paxton, and today I want to show you some canning basics for beginners. If you're wondering if this course is right for you, if you want to learn the basics of canning because you've never canned before, or if you're ready to graduate from boiling water to canning to pressure canning, then this course is perfect for you. My name is Rachel Paxton, and I'm a freelance writer and mom of 5 children, ages 28 to 6. I've been canning for more than 20 years, and I'm the owner of the website creativehomemaking.com. I started canning more than 20 years ago when I had too many tomato plants in my garden and I wanted to make homemade salsa. I grew up canning, or at least watching my mom can. She canned a lot when I was a kid. We didn't live on a farm or anything. We lived in the city, but we had a big garden, and she always made jam and canned pears and made apple pie filling and that kind of stuff. I have a lot of fond memories of that when I was a kid. I don't think my mom really taught me how to can. I must not have been interested in it when I was little, but when I got older and got into my 20s, I got really interested in it, and I made jam for a long time and salsa before I was brave enough to start pressure canning. But in the last 5 years or so, I've been doing a lot of pressure canning and trying out all different kinds of recipes, and we've moved out to the country and are growing a big garden. I'll show you a picture of here in a minute. And so I've been doing a lot of canning and preserving all of our own food, and I've found that really satisfying, and I hope that that's why you're here, that because you're interested in that too, and I'd love to show you how to can. I'll show you some photos of the stuff I've canned. This is my Mountain Dew jelly and pomegranate jelly and apple pie jam. Here's some photos of my shelves in my basement. There's some pickled beets there and pickled asparagus and a bunch of pears. And I've got some chili and spaghetti sauce and all kinds of stuff there. And this is what your shelves can look like once you start canning. There's a lot of benefits of canning. Of course, you'll be preserving your garden. If you have a big garden, you need to find something to do with all of it. You're not going to have enough room in your freezer for all of it, so canning is a great way to keep your garden going all year long. Also saves money on groceries. You'll also be able to have a lot faster meal preparation. It may not seem like it if you think it's going to take hours to can, but if you think about it, if you just spend 2 or 3 hours in a Sunday afternoon making 6 quarts of chili, that's 6 meals that you're going to have for the future. And even if you weren't canning, if you were just doing that to put it in the freezer or put it in the refrigerator, it still would have taken the same amount of time. So it's just a little intimidating, I think, when you don't know how to do it, that you think it's going to take a lot of time. But once you know what you're doing and can work it into your schedule, you'll find that it doesn't really take as much time as you think. And you will have quick and easy meals that you can just, especially when you make soup, you can just open it up and you have a quick meal there. It's also healthier to eat food grown locally. When you are eating food that's out of season and flown in from other countries, you don't always know what you're eating or what's on your food, and so it's nice to know where your food came from. There's no additives or preservatives. There's less packaging for you to have to throw into the landfill, so it's great for helping the environment. And for people that are looking to be more self-sufficient, this is a great way to not have to rely on the grocery store or other people to provide your food for you. For some people, it preserves a family legacy. You know, in my family, both of my grandmothers canned, so I feel like I'm passing on a family legacy. And if you don't have that in your family, you can start that today and pass that down to the next generation. And for people that like to have food storage, it's important to have food put away in case of emergencies. If your freezer breaks down or if the electricity goes out, you're going to lose the food in your freezer. So it's nice to have other food beside what's in your freezer, so if something happens, you'll still have extra food. And also, if there's a natural disaster or if somebody in your house loses their job, if you have food on hand, then that's one less thing you're going to have to worry about. Here are some of the basic canning equipment you're going to need. You're going to need a boiling water canner or a pressure canner, a large stock pot, a jar lifter, a wide mouth funnel, and canning jars, lids, and rings. This is what a boiling water canner looks like. You can buy a kit for about $30 on Amazon. If you know that you're going to be wanting to can vegetables and meats and things like that, then you probably want to buy a pressure canner instead, because a pressure canner you can pressure can or boiling water can in, but you can't pressure can in a boiling water canner. So if you're going to be doing all different kinds of canning, you really want to get a pressure canner. A boiling water canner is great for doing jams and fruits and stuff like that, and some salsas. And I have both. It's nice. You can use the boiling water canner as a big stock pot too, so it's nice to have for an extra pan. This is what the canning rack looks like. It comes in your boiling water canner, but if you don't want to buy a boiling water canner, you can use any large stock pot for boiling water canning, as long as you have a canning rack like this in the bottom of the pan. These cost about $10. This is a dial gauge pressure canner. Pressure canner is about $75, but they're stainless steel and they'll last a really long time. You can buy these on Amazon. There's two different kinds of pressure canners, a dial gauge canner and a weighted gauge canner. This is a dial gauge. This is the kind that I use. Here's another kind of canner. It's an All-American pressure canner. This is actually a dial gauge canner also, but it's a lot bigger. These cost about $300, but they're really heavy duty, and if you're going to be doing a lot of canning, these are really worthwhile. They're a little bit too big and heavy to have on your stove in the kitchen, so if you want to can outside, you can get a propane burner like this to put your canner on. These are really neat because you can have 2 layers of pint-sized jars in your canner, so you can actually can 18 pint-sized jars at a time. You can only do 1 layer of quart jars, but you can do 2 layers of pint jars, so this is kind of neat. This is what an outdoor canning setup might look like. Some people like to can outside in the summertime so that they're not heating their house up, and it also gives you more room. So if all you need is a propane burner and a propane tank and your pot, and you can do boiling water canning or pressure canning outside. This is my large stock pot that I use, and the jar lifter. Wide mouth funnel is nice because it sits in your jar, and so you don't spill your food when you're putting it in the jars. Here's a different size jars. There's a half pint, and there's 2 different kinds of pint jars and quart jars. The pint jars hold the same amount of food, but the tall pint is skinnier and taller. This is nice for doing things like pickled asparagus when you don't want to have to cut off more of the asparagus than you have to, so you can leave the spears longer when you put them in these jars. You can use these jars for jams and jellies too. It's just your preference which ones you want to use. These are my stack of canning jars I have in my basement. When you first see the price of canning jars, you might think they're a little expensive. They cost around $8 or $9 a case for 12 of them. But if you stock up on them at the end of the season, you'll find a lot of stores like Lowe's and Home Depot even have canning supplies. They'll have their canning supplies at half price at the end of the season. So in the fall, you might want to check and stock up on jars. You can also find jars on Craigslist. A lot of people use mason jars for weddings, and so they're trying to get rid of them afterwards, so you can get them there. And yard sales are also a great place to get them. Just make sure you check the rims of the jars to make sure there's no cracks or nicks in them, to make sure that they'll still seal well. Here's some optional canning equipment that I use. I have a food mill, an immersion blender, an apple peeler, a vegetable chopper, and a fine mesh strainer. This food mill is optional, but if you're making things like juice and smooth sauces, and you don't want to have to peel your tomatoes and apples. This is a great tool to get your seeds and peels off of your fruits and vegetables without having to actually peel them. This is an old-fashioned food mill. You might have one of these, or your mom might have one. You could also find these at antique stores sometimes. But this is an old-fashioned food mill. People used to use these to make applesauce, and they still work well. You can that food mill I just showed you is around $40, so they're kind of expensive, but they're stainless steel and they work really great and they'll last a long time. This one works well too. So if you have one like this, you can use this too. Immersion blenders are really great when you're making sauces and you want to blend up the chunks in something. You just stick this in your pan while you're cooking and blend it. This is optional. You don't have to have this, but if you're working with hot liquids, it's hard to pour them into your blender and use the blender when it's hot and you don't want to get it everywhere. So these immersion blenders are really great. They're about $20. This is my apple peeler. It makes apple peeling really easy. It also peels potatoes. This vegetable chopper is wonderful. I got it a couple years ago, and it chops up tomatoes and onions and bell peppers really great for when you're making salsa and things like that. It even has a measuring cup in the bottom. Fine mesh strainers are necessary when you're making like blueberry syrup or something like that. It's similar to the food mill, but the mesh is actually even finer on this, so you can get a really thin, nice, clear sauce. Boiling water canning versus pressure canning. Let's have a little science lesson for you. I'm not really big on science. It took me a while to understand this stuff, but there is a little bit of science you need to understand when you're canning to know why it's important to know whether you should use a boiling water canner or a pressure canner. The acidity of foods is measured on a pH scale from 1 to 14. The confusing part is that a pH of 1 is the highest acidity and the pH of 14 is the lowest acidity. So that seems backwards to me. It's hard for me to remember that. But foods with a pH level higher than 4.6 need to be pressure canned, which means that they have low acidity. High acid foods would include fruits and jams and jellies and salsa and pickled foods. These things, some of these things on their own are low acid foods, but like salsas and pickled foods have vinegar added, so that makes them more high acid, so that you can boiling water can them. Low acid foods would include all vegetables except for tomatoes and meats. Those all need to be pressure canned. Tomatoes are a little different. They have a pH of 4.6, which is right in the middle. Some people say to boiling water can them. Some people say to pressure can them. In the past, it was safe to always boiling water can them, but as time has gone on with all the different varieties of tomatoes there are these days, they actually have different pH levels. So it's normally safe to can them in boiling water, but usually lemon juice is added to help decrease the pH level and increase the acidity. Foods that are not safe to can include milk products, cornstarch or flour that are often used as thickeners. There is something else that you can use instead I talk about in my courses. And you don't want to can pasta or rice. Boiling water canning, you heat the water to 212 degrees. That's the boiling point of water. So when you're boiling something, the water is never going to get hotter than that. And for foods that have high acid levels, that temperature is hot enough to kill any bacteria. So that makes your food safe to eat after you can it. For pressure canning, the pressurized steam inside the pressure canner actually increases the temperature of the water to 240 degrees. This increased temperature is necessary to kill the bacteria that causes botulism, and this bacteria is present in low acid foods, and so that is why you need the higher temperature for low acid foods. and you can only achieve that with pressure canning. These are the parts of a pressure canner. The way that you know if your pressure canner has pressure in it or not is if the lid lock is up. So when you're operating your pressure canner, that's how you know there's pressure in it. I know some people are concerned about hearing stories about people's pressure canners exploding and stuff, but you just never want to take the lid off your pressure canner when the lid lock is up. When the lock is down, it's perfectly safe to take the lid off. I have been doing this for more than 20 years and I've never had a problem. I'll give you step-by-step instructions for using your pressure canner in my canning courses. If you've been thinking about what you're going to grow in your garden this year, these are the kinds of things that I normally grow in my garden. I'll have tomatoes and bell peppers, hot peppers, green beans, peas, beets, pickling cucumbers. There's different kinds of cucumbers. If you're going to make pickles, you definitely want pickling cucumbers. I usually grow regular cucumbers also. If you want to make your own pizza sauce and spaghetti sauce and stuff like that, you might want to grow your own basil, oregano, and parsley. I also grow dill for my dill pickles. And you can grow strawberries, rhubarbs. If you have a lot of room, you can plant squash and pumpkins and potatoes. These are some different things that you can with tomatoes. I had 9 tomato plants last year, and I actually used all the tomatoes on my plants. I think I'm actually going to grow some more plants this year because of all the different things I found to can with tomatoes. You can make salsa, pizza sauce, tomato sauce, sweet and sour sauce, spaghetti sauce, tomato soup, V8 juice, and chili. From apples, you can make applesauce, apple pie jam, caramel apple jam, apple jelly, apple butter, and apple pie filling. You might wonder if growing a garden is necessary. If you don't have room for a garden or don't have time to garden, you might have some nice friends, family, or neighbors that are willing to share with you. Or maybe if you help them with their garden, they'll be willing to share with you. And another way that we get produce for canning is by foraging in the mountains. You can pick berries, and a lot of times you'll find wild apple trees. These are pears from a wild pear tree that we found, and so these were free. And gleaning is when at the end of the season farmers let you come into their fields and pick up whatever was not picked up during the harvest. And so a lot of places will do this. You just have to call and ask. And local orchards are also a great place just to buy fruit in bulk. I like to buy apples and pears at the local orchards. Sometimes you can pick them and sometimes they pick them for you. It's good to shop around because some of the places have become kind of touristy, so there can be a big difference in the prices, but you can get a really good deal. I usually get apples for around 50 cents a pound, so if you can find something like that, you definitely want to take advantage of that. And farmers markets and roadside fruit stands are also a good place to find good deals. One year when my pickling cucumbers weren't doing very well, I was able to find some really inexpensive pickling cucumbers at a roadside stand. So you never know what you're going to find. Just want to tell you a little bit about my new canning courses. Benefits of my courses are that you'll have all your favorite canning recipes all in one place. You can find some of these recipes online, but there's all different versions of the recipes, and it takes a lot of time to test all the recipes, and I've spent a lot of time doing that, and I've only saved the best recipes for you. It's also hard to know which recipes are safe to can. A lot of people will say that the recipes are safe when they're really not. Recipes need to follow the guidelines set out by the National Center for Food Preservation, and mine do follow those guidelines. And you'll also be able to start on any course that you like. Each course is complete. Each has a video and a recipe for you, and so all the information you need is in every video. And you can also get your canning questions answered in my private Facebook group. Right now I have about 26 courses to choose from. We have apple butter, apple pie jam, baked beans, barbecue sauce, beef stew, bean and ham soup, chili. I'll show you how to can fresh fish, green beans, Mountain Dew jelly, orange marmalade, pickled jalapenos, pizza sauce, potatoes, pomegranate jelly, pulled pork, and spaghetti sauce with or without meat. I'm excited to share my salsa recipe with you. I've been looking for the perfect salsa recipe for the past 20 years, and I finally found one that's really good. It's not too runny, it's just the right consistency, and everyone loves it. And you can make it hot or not hot, so I'm really excited to share that recipe with you. I also have a recipe for split pea soup. This is really good sweet and sour sauce. It's easy to make and it tastes better than the kind from the store. And this cream of tomato soup recipe, you might have a hard time finding this recipe somewhere else, but it's really good and it tastes better than the soup from the store. I'll also show you how to can tomatoes, winter squash, and raw chicken, pickled beets, and strawberry rhubarb jam. Some courses I'm working on in the future will be hot dog relish, peach salsa, pickled asparagus, and applesauce. The cinnamon pear recipe will be worth the price of the course itself. These cinnamon pears are wonderful, and everybody who tries them loves them. Your family will want you to make them over and over again. I'll also show you how to make dill pickles, apple pie filling, apricot jam, and V8 juice, and more. Each course contains step-by-step instructions, an instructional video, downloadable recipe, and a downloadable altitude adjustment chart. Today I'd like to offer you a free mini course on how to make apple pie jam. You can enroll in the class by going to this link or clicking on the link below the video. I would love for you to sign up for this class today and check out the free one and see what you think. Let me know what you think, and I thank you for listening to me today, and I hope to meet you soon.